Hello, apes, and welcome to the sixth screencast in the Chapter 2 series of the Earth's physical systems, matter, energy, and geology. And take a look at this picture. This is something that is close to your heart and that you know very well, and this is photosynthesis. So we're seeing that photosynthesis consists of two reactions: the light-dependent reactions and the light-independent reactions. And this is going to be a quick review, and I'm going to ask that you go into this a little bit more if you do not remember the processes. So what happens is photosynthesis first happens in plants and algae and some cyanobacteria. And it takes this energy of sunlight to split. We're going to split this water molecule up. And when we split this water molecule up, we're going to get electrons that are going to power something called the electron transport chain. And from that electron transport chain, we're going to get energy in the form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate. And as a byproduct of this reaction, we're going to get some oxygen. So oxygen is a byproduct or a waste that's given off from these light-dependent reactions. As a part of these light-dependent reactions, we're also going to generate some electron carriers. And one of those electron carriers is going to be NADPH. And NADPH, as well as ATP, will be used to generate the light-independent reactions, which is known as the Calvin cycle. And this is where carbon dioxide is going to come into the equation. The Calvin cycle is going to be a series of reactions that they're going to get their energy from NADPH and ATP in order to produce sugars. And this is all going to happen inside of the chloroplast. So this is what the process of photosynthesis is. We need a little bit of ATP, which is made in our electron transport chain. And that electron transport chain, remember, has photosystems in it that are able to harness that energy of sunlight in order to split that water molecule. And then once they produce those electron carriers and the ATP, then that can go into the Calvin cycle and it can react with some compounds that are already suspended within the stroma of the chloroplast and produce the sugars. Okay, if you forget all that, please make sure you review it and you check that out. So we know that the chloroplasts are the organelles where photosynthesis occurs, and they're able to do that with the chlorophyll, which is a light-absorbing pigment that has the photosystems in it, photosystem 1 and photosystem 2, which are able to harness that energy of sunlight. And remember, this is located in the thylakoid membrane inside of that chloroplast. We know that it takes two reactions: the light reaction, the light-dependent reaction, which is going to split the water and release the electrons that are needed to power that electron transport chain, and the Calvin cycle, which is going to link the carbon atoms from carbon dioxide into sugar, into that glucose. So we can see our general equation. It takes 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, 6 molecules of water in the presence of sun energy to give us only 1 molecule of sugar and 6 molecules of oxygen. So that's the general equation for photosynthesis. Let's click on this. Oh, it's already working. I didn't even have to click. Let's try it again though. See if it'll, nope, it won't go over. Alright, so here in this diagram, here's our light energy coming in. Remember, each one of these disks is an individual, and it's not letting me write on this. Each one of these disks is an individual thylakoid, and a stack of thylakoids is a granum, and it increases the surface area so that more light can be absorbed to produce more glucose. The space that surrounds this is the stroma, and the photosystems are going to collect that energy from the sunlight and use that to split the water and to make the glucose and release the oxygen. And they're going to use water and carbon dioxide in this process. Now, keeping in mind, as far as light energy is concerned, the color that we see is the color that's being reflected, and the color that we don't see is the color that's being absorbed. So photosystems tend to reflect the green light, some yellow light and some green light, and absorb the other lights. And there's two different kinds of chlorophyll. There's chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B, which absorb different lights in the spectrum, so that we get all the energy from that spectrum. Okay, so photosynthesis goes hand in hand with cellular respiration. And cellular respiration is organisms using the glucose that is produced by the plants in order to produce the chemical energy that they need for cellular activities. And both plants and animals go through cellular respiration. It occurs in all living things. So heterotrophs are the organisms that are going to gain the energy by feeding off of other organisms. They're going to feed off of plants, they're going to feed off of animals and fungi. So animals, fungi, and microbes are all considered heterotrophs because they cannot produce their own food. They have to consume it in another way. So you'll hear primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers. So they undergo cellular respiration, and that cellular respiration takes the glucose that was produced by the plants in the presence of the oxygen that was given by the plants, and it needs some chemical energy with this, and it produces carbon dioxide, water, and we get energy in the form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is a huge macromolecule that has a lot of bonds. It's an endergonic molecule that we use for cellular metabolism. So again, take a look at this equation. It's the reverse equation of photosynthesis. So you can kind of tell that these reactions are dependent on each other. You need photosynthesis for cellular respiration to occur. You need cellular respiration for photosynthesis to occur. Carbon dioxide is the waste product, a byproduct. Water is also a byproduct, and energy is what we're trying to get from this reaction. Okay, let's see if we can click and play on this one. Alright, so this one's not, there we go. So we're seeing the light energy coming down on the leaves with photosynthesis occurring, and then it's producing the sugars, and that leaf, that plant, is going to also go through cellular respiration and use those sugars as energy in order for it to grow and go through all the cellular activities. All right. We have another kind of energy that we haven't discussed, and this is geothermal energy, and this also is responsible for providing energy to Earth systems. So other than the sun, we have energy that comes from the Earth's gravitational pull, so there's an energy from that, and geothermal heat, which is the heat that we get under the ground that's powered by radioactivity that happens below the Earth's surface. So we've got radioactive isotopes that are deep within the planet. They're going to help heat the inner Earth. You know, we know that there's molten lava in the center of the Earth. The heat of magma that erupts from volcanoes is another source, and that's what drives the plate tectonics to move. So you know that all the continents are on plates that can actually move, and we are moving. And we've been together at one point, and we've broken it apart at another point because of that heated magma. Costa Rica, I went there not this past summer, but the summer before last, and they have, I think, like 2,000 earthquakes a day. You can't feel all of them because their volcanoes, they're still forming, and there's a lot of volcanoes in that area. Warm water that happens as a result of the magma can actually create geysers. Yellowstone Park, Old Faithful, that happens at 12 o'clock because it's a constant heating, and that water comes out, and we can use that energy. So here is an example of some geysers that are forming and spouting out hot water. And you can see in this picture these formations that you have are from actually lava that has cooled and formed these rocks, and water has collected in and kind of made these tiny little pools all around. So geothermal energy can power a lot of biological communities. So this is one type of energy that we can use and harness. Have you ever had the opportunity to go into a cave or a cavern? The caves are at a constant temperature under the ground, and that can be anywhere from like 52 to 60 degrees. And that stays that way all year round. So when it's hot outside, we can actually use that to cool down our houses. When it's cold outside, below freezing, we can use that to help warm up. But we can also go below that with the other types of geothermal energy. So there are hydrothermal vents that we saw in the picture, and they host communities that thrive in high temperatures and pressure. And these are areas that lack sun, so photosynthesis cannot happen. So instead, the process that goes on is chemosynthesis. And it's the same type of reaction as photosynthesis would be, but because there's no sunlight, then we're going to use hydrogen sulfide in the equation in order to produce the sugar. So we're going to have carbon dioxide, we're going to have water, here's our hydrogen sulfide that we're going to have, and that is going to give us our sugar that we need, and we're going to get this byproduct that you see here. So this is chemosynthesis, and this is what would happen at those hydrothermal vents. Okay, so here's an example of what it would look like at the hydrothermal vents, and they're collecting, those tanks are helping to collect some of that energy. Okay, so there are physical processes that happen below the earth, and these physical processes are responsible for shaping our landscape. They are responsible for laying the foundation for the environmental systems that support life, like the biogeochemical cycling. They are going to provide us with the materials for industry, such as iron and copper and steel, that we're able to extract. And they also provide us the energy from fossil fuels and geothermal sources. So in order to understand those, we need to understand geology, and geology is the study of the Earth's physical features and processes. And this has happened over time. The formations have happened over time. And when we think in terms of how long these land formations have been forming and compare it with human life is just a blink of an eye in geological time. It's just a really, really small part. So that's what we're going to be focusing on in the remainder of the chapter. We're almost done the screencast, so I will see you in the next one.